You wake up, your eyes are open, but you cannot move a single finger. Somewhere near the foot of the bed, something is standing there watching you, and you cannot even turn your head to check if it's real. You try to scream. Nothing comes out. You try to reach for the lamp, for your phone, for anything, and your arm doesn't so much as twitch. For a few seconds, or maybe a full minute, your body has become a stranger to you. This isn't a nightmare. It's something stranger than that, and it happens to more people than you'd expect. Night after night, all over the world, in almost every culture that has ever existed. Scientists call it sleep paralysis. Ordinary people for centuries called it something else entirely. A demon sitting on your chest, a witch riding your body while you sleep, a shadow that presses down on you until you can barely breathe. And here's the part that should unsettle you. Roughly 7.6% of the general population will experience it at least once in their life. Among college students, that number jumps to 28.3%. Among people with psychiatric conditions, it climbs past 30%. This isn't rare, it's just rarely talked about. Long before anyone understood the biology, people were painting it. In 1781, the Swiss artist Henri Fuseli finished a painting called The Nightmare. A woman lying paralyzed across her bed and crouched on her chest staring straight out of the canvas, a squat, grinning demon called an incubus. The painting became one of the most famous images in Western art, copied and parodied for 2 centuries, precisely because almost everyone who looked at it recognized the feeling, even if they'd never given it a name. Fuseli had no access to brain scans or sleep labs. He just somehow knew exactly what that moment felt like from the inside. So what is actually happening inside your skull when this occurs? Every night, your brain moves through several stages of sleep, and one of them, REM sleep, is where almost all of your vivid dreaming happens. During REM, your brain is nearly as active as when you're awake. Your eyes dart back and forth behind closed lids. Your heart rate shifts. And most importantly, your brainstem floods your spinal cord with inhibitory signals, shutting down your voluntary muscles almost completely. Doctors call this rematonia. It exists for one very specific reason: to stop you from physically acting out your dreams. Without it, you'd be kicking, punching, and sleepwalking through whatever your mind invents at 3 a.m. Normally, atonia switches off the moment you wake up. Your brain flips one switch to end the dream and another to give your body back to you, and it happens in the right order every single night without you ever noticing the handoff. Sleep paralysis is what happens when that handoff fails. Your mind wakes up, your eyes open, awareness returns. But your brainstem hasn't gotten the message yet. It's still holding your muscles locked down, exactly the way it does during a dream, because as far as that part of your brain is concerned, you're still asleep. You are, for a few terrifying seconds, fully conscious inside a body that no longer answers to you. And that's where it gets strange, because paralysis alone wouldn't explain the shadows. It wouldn't explain the pressure on your chest, or the sense that someone or something is standing in the room with you. That part comes from somewhere else. When REM sleep gets interrupted mid-cycle, fragments of dream imagery don't fully shut off. They bleed into your waking perception. At the same time, a part of your brain called the amygdala, the same structure responsible for detecting threats, is still running hot from REM activity. It's primed to sense danger before you've even opened your eyes. Combine unfinished dream content with a threat detection system stuck in overdrive, and your brain does something remarkable. It builds a monster out of nothing, and then convinces you it's real. There's also a strange, well-documented detail that makes the hallucination feel even more physical. Many people describe pressure directly on the chest, as if something heavy is sitting there. Researchers link this to disrupted breathing patterns during REM. When your diaphragm and airway muscles are partially affected by the same paralysis holding down your limbs, breathing becomes shallower and more effortful. Your brain, already primed to hunt for a threat, interprets that shortness of breath as an external weight instead of an internal one. It doesn't just imagine a demon crouching on your chest. It manufactures the physical sensation of one. This is why the hallucinations follow an eerily consistent pattern across almost every culture on Earth. In Newfoundland, they call it the Old Hag. In Japan, it's kanashibari. In parts of the Caribbean, people describe a spirit called the Kokma sitting on a sleeper's chest. In Egypt, it's attributed to a jinn. Different names, different mythologies, separated by oceans and centuries of no contact with one another, and yet the description barely changes. A heavy presence, a shadow near the bed, an inability to scream, and a certainty every single time that whatever is there means you harm. A folklorist named David Hufford spent years documenting these accounts in Newfoundland in the 1970s, expecting to find regional superstition. Instead, he found a neurological fingerprint repeating itself across humanity, wearing a different costume in every culture but always telling the same story. So, if it isn't a demon and it isn't a curse, why does it feel so real? Why does the fear linger for hours afterward, long after your body has moved again? Because your brain isn't lying about the fear. It's lying about the source. The dread you feel is genuine, produced by a real neurological event, real activity in real threat detection circuits. Your mind just doesn't have a category for "my own brainstem malfunctioned during a transition state," so it reaches for the nearest available explanation. Something is in the room with me. For most of human history, that explanation was supernatural because nobody had access to REM cycles, brainstem signaling, or amygdala activity. They only had the sensation, and the sensation demanded a story. Certain things make it more likely to happen to you. Sleeping on your back seems to increase the odds significantly, possibly because it makes airway obstruction and disrupted breathing more likely, which in turn fragments REM sleep. Irregular sleep schedules increase it. So does chronic stress, jet lag, and sheer sleep deprivation. Anything that destabilizes the normal architecture of your sleep cycles gives your brain more opportunities to wake the mind up before it wakes up the body. And here's the unsettling part. Most people who experience this assume something is deeply wrong with them. They don't tell anyone. They lie awake afterward, convinced they saw something. But researchers who study this consistently find the same conclusion. An isolated episode of sleep paralysis, on its own, is not a symptom of any serious disorder. It's a normal, if uncomfortable, glitch in an otherwise flawless system, one your brain runs successfully millions of times over the course of your life without you ever knowing it exists. Only when episodes become frequent, chronic, and paired with something like narcolepsy does it point towards something worth investigating medically. Narcolepsy, in particular, is defined partly by a broken boundary between sleep stages and waking life. People with the condition can slip into REM within minutes of falling asleep instead of the usual 90, which means the paralysis and hallucination combination shows up far more often and far more intensely than it does for the rest of us. But for almost everyone else, an isolated episode is simply a rare misfire in one of the most complex handoffs your nervous system performs every single night, unnoticed, until the one night it doesn't go according to plan. Think about what that actually means. Somewhere behind your eyes right now, there's a system quietly negotiating the exact moment your consciousness returns and the exact moment your body follows. It does this every single night of your life, in perfect sequence, without instructions, without effort, without you lifting a finger to help it along. You've never had to consciously decide when to regain control of your own arms. It just happens. Until, on one particular night, for a handful of seconds it doesn't. And the illusion of that flawless machinery breaks just long enough for you to feel what it's actually made of. That's the real story hiding underneath centuries of demons and shadows and hags sitting on sleepers' chests. It was never something external reaching in to hold you down. It was always your own mind. Caught for a few seconds between two states it usually moves through invisibly, building a threat out of thin air, because that's what a frightened brain does when it doesn't have the full picture yet. And maybe that's the part worth sitting with. Every night, without asking your permission, your brain takes you somewhere else entirely, runs an entire second version of your life in dreams, then quietly hands you back to your body before you even notice the transfer happened. You've trusted that handoff every single night since you were born, and it has almost never failed you. Fuseli painted it as a demon. Cultures across the planet called it a spirit, a hag, a jinn. But it was never anything sitting on you from the outside. It was the edge of your own consciousness, glimpsed for a few seconds before the rest of you caught up. So the next time you wake up and can't move, and you feel like something is standing at the edge of the bed, Remember what's actually happening. Your body isn't betraying you. It's simply a few seconds behind your mind, still following instructions from a dream that technically already ended. The shadow isn't real, but the part of you that's afraid of it, that part is doing exactly what human brains have done for as long as humans have slept, trying to make sense of the dark, using whatever story is closest at hand.